This is the Watchman giving a clarion call. Well, folks, the silver and gold demand that all our critics assured us would drop back to normal levels any day now have remained at the much elevated pace that began back in early June, when Greek banks were frozen and the referendum was in full swing. Since that time, retail demand has gone in only one direction, up. And it has stayed there remarkably. And I'll get to that in a minute. But first, there's been a good deal of chit-chat about the Comex situation with the leverage as the pile of registered gold that underlies all the claims to it has shrunken now to a tiny 160,000 ounces, or a mere 5 tons. And just as I predicted in a recent article, the number of claims per registered gold ounce have flown like Icarus. It is soaring. In fact, it's doubled from roughly 120 claims per ounce of registered gold 6 weeks ago to over 250 claims per ounce now. It's gotten so absurd that one has to wonder, at what point will everything break? Not an all-out default, mind you. By breaking point, I mean the moment where everybody suddenly admits that the Comex shell game has neither right nor legitimacy or even power in setting prices for 7 billion people. Now, many have been asking lately, why doesn't China just get it over with? Why don't they stand for delivery on the Comex? Many have asked that. And that question shows that they perhaps don't understand the nature of the Comex or the long-term strategy being employed by Eurasia. Right, here's the thing that only a few folks seem to understand about the Comex. While the Comex is definitely the Wall Street and London bankers' price-setting mechanism, it is not a significant delivery mechanism for gold in any meaningful sense of the word, because it really doesn't have that much gold to speak of and hasn't had it for quite some time. Okay, there's only about 6.9 million ounces of gold total on the books in Comex warehousing, and most every single ounce already has an owner. Now, 6.9 million ounces may sound like a lot, but trust me, trust me, it's not a lot. It's peanuts. Okay, consider this. At the rate which Shanghai has delivered physical gold this year to Chinese citizens, by the way, which stands at a current total as of September 4th of 1,755 tons, that equals 56 million ounces. Compared to the 7 million the Comex says that it warehouses on behalf of its customers, they would burn through Comex gold in 1 month. So Chinese citizens have burned through this year 8 times as much gold as the Comex even has on its books. Okay, China would burn through all Comex gold in 30 days, people. 30 days. That's why, until recently, nobody's been sweating over Comex gold deliveries, because there really aren't any to speak of. Because it's not where the large players, sovereign or otherwise, have gone to acquire their gold. The reason why is that going there would force the issue and cause an emergency situation for the U.S. government, the CME, the Comex warehouses, the bullion banks, you name it. It would cause an emergency for them, forcing them to either cash settle or change the rules, both of which would severely disrupt the entire global gold market, which is a tiny speck. Okay, it would make enormous waves in this tiny pool, and it would spike gold and silver's price. And it would ensure that whoever stood for that delivery received very little gold to speak of. Okay? And that's why China isn't going for the kill shot, all right? It's not going for the jugular vein. The Comex is the jugular vein on this price-rigging beast. Now, brothers, ask yourself this. If you were China, or a Chinese sovereign wealth fund, and you had trillions, trillions laying around in US dollars and US debt instruments that you wanted to spend on things like gold, but needed precious time to stretch those purchases out, why would you go for the jugular vein when there's only 1 month's worth of gold there for your people? That's not even worth the trouble. Think about it. At this point, keeping gold and silver lower through constant rigging is an enormous mistake for Western bankers, and China knows the old adage, you never interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake. Okay, you embrace it. You make that mistake your own. You encourage your enemy to keep making the same mistake until they no longer have any strength to speak of. Chinese citizens are draining world gold supply and stocks at a rate of an entire Comex worth of gold every month. Why would you raid your enemies of just one Comex when leaving the Comex be you can deprive the banking dragon's gold supply of 6 million ounces per month? That's precisely what they've done for years. In fact, in the last 6.5 years, Shanghai has now relieved the world of 9,669 tons of gold. For those counting in ounces, that's over 310 million ounces of pet rocks. Stated another way, they have looted the world of 45 Comex's worth of gold. 45. Now remember what I've said in the past? That silver is the pressure point knockout for the banking beast, but gold is the source of the beast's power. The name of the game for Eurasia must be to drain every last possible gram of gold that can be drained from the Western bankers in as short a time frame as possible, all while containing silver in the meantime. Because the moment silver is not contained, their great chance for a gold grab is over. Now that will continue until there's none left to be had in London or in central banks. Oh, and speaking of silver, that's an entirely different creature than gold. It's the one metal which the Comex and the bankers have struggled to stay relevant in, and the bankers must stay relevant in silver because silver is ever so much more crucial to their con than gold. Okay, so the Comex warehousing system and banks have worked overtime to make the silver flow, much more than gold. They don't care about gold delivery as much because, truth be told, most of the golden deficit of the last 5 years has been made up for with privately leased gold from central bank vaults whose liens and leases are kept off the books. Okay, but there are no great silver stockpiles from these same sources to speak of, which is why they must sustain actual honest-to-God Comex silver deliveries until it's no longer possible to do so. But it doesn't even matter anymore. It's insufficient now, totally insufficient. Because the trend that I remarked of several videos ago of falling Comex silver stockpiles, especially on the registered side, is continuing. It's still caving in. And get this, it's caved in at a rate that's twice as fast as the previous silver shortage did in 2011. They are now down to 48 million registered ounces of silver from 70 million back in April. Now, make no mistake, India is largely responsible for this. India remains the key player in silver. No two ways about it. I've long said that India would help free silver from the rigging, and the last 3 years have borne this out. India is the silver juggernaut. They are draining the beast dry of silver, and the banksters are desperate to meet that demand. Now, how do we know this? Well, for one, Steve St. Angelo just did a great piece on a new trend. The curious trend of the U.S. exporting silver to India. They went from exporting no silver to India for years to exporting many millions of ounces of silver to them starting in May. Now take a look at it for yourself. In May, silver exports spiked from 0 to nearly 40 tons. And the next month, they spiked again, nearly doubling that amount in June to over 75 tons. My brothers, this is an enormous tell. This is huge. The U.S. government is at the heart of the silver rigging, them in London. And if the U.S. has to fork over silver directly to India, they're doing it because there's no other source willing or able to do so. Now think about that. That's amazing. Now, why the sudden spike in silver exports to India? Well, it's partly because of something else that changed around that time. You see, in May, silver demand in India went to an unbelievable sum of over 1,542 tons. That means in 1 month, India sucked in over 50 million ounces of silver. 1 month. Nearly 2 million ounces per day, which is almost the entirety of all newly produced silver during the entire month around the globe. In the first half of the year, India sucked in over 4,000 tons, which means that India will likely take in at least 8,000 tons of silver should this pace remain through the remainder of the year. But considering that the most intense demand for religious reasons, for wedding reasons at Diwali, seasonal demand for silver hasn't even hit the sweet spot yet. When it normally takes off, and I expect the latter months to further rip the guts out of the bankster silver stockpiles. And honestly, a 10,000 ton year is not impossible. It's within the realm of likelihood. Now, lastly, I want to leave you with a question. If the Federal Reserve does decide to raise rates, say by a goofy 25 basis points, the hedge funds and those with underwater silver positions will take that opportunity to scalp and hammer Comex silver even further than ever. They will do this. And brothers, I gotta be honest with you, I sure hope they do that. I love that prospect. Remember, the further and faster silver gets beaten down, the faster this system and the banks who own it get hammered, get clotheslined, get annihilated. I hope, truly hope the Fed does raise rates at some point, whether this week or in sometime in the near future. Because if you think that the multi-million ounce silver backlogs from all the world's mints right now are bad, brothers, you ain't seen nothing yet. Just wait till they gun the stops at 14 and send silver to a consistent $13 level or even to the 12s. I predict this. If that price action occurs, you will still be paying around the same amount for silver that you're paying right now, if not several dollars higher. The bottlenecks will continue to grow much worse and weigh upon the already strained wholesale market even more, slicing Comex inventories even further and delivering many tens of millions of precious ounces of fresh silver to eager, waiting Indian hands. This is the Watchman signing off. Stay vigilant and bring the fight to them.